Welcome everybody. This is Rev Games. We are back at you with some more Reasoning Gate live gameplay. I am this time going to do a very short deck review here. Shouldn't be too much different from the last videos, and then cut it and then jump into some live gameplay just because there are a lot of quitters and I don't want to waste your time with that type of thing. So really standard Reasoning Gate, as I'd mentioned in some of my previous videos, we're electing to go a little bit slower here. We cut the upstarts and added swords, a brain con, which I guess is actually more of a fast choice. I think this card might belong in the main. Like every time I see it, I'm pretty happy. The issue with this deck a lot of times, or sometimes at least, is you don't have a way to get a tribute on the field. You don't have a way to pop something off with Monster Gate if they eat all your goats or clear them. And it functionally is a Snatch Steal, and that's one of the best cards in the deck. I mean, it's not like Snatch Steal where in a more control-y, grindy type of game you have to worry about them gaining life. Like usually when you're doing a Snatch play, um, you're going for game, or you're gonna do some shenanigans with meta. Um, on the 3 books, I really don't know if this is the right ratio, but a little bit slower of a build, stall them out a little bit with swords. We have a torrential for a clear, and that's really all there is to it. No jars. Those are those are probably, in my mind, even a little bit slower than torrential. Like I don't know how much good they do. Sometimes they feel really good, but in conjunction with something like Upstart, yeah, it feels really great when you Upstart into one of your missing combo pieces. But 1,000 life is 1,000 life, and in a glass cannony build like this, you kind of need to go for game shots, and you're going to be very, very close if you haven't gotten any chip damage in to whatever you need to get the full 8,000 or 6,000, whatever you have them at. So the 1,000 just matters too much in my mind. This is not a very resilient build. You're going to go for big plays typically early on in the game. It's not the type of build where you can get some chip damage, maybe with a Jinzo or something like that, or a Fusilier or some big meta play, and then sweep it the next turn. You just got to go for the kill shot. Um, but then again, we're running, 1 turn delay type stuff like torrential just because this kind of does help with the kill shots. I've been noticing people are getting better at playing against this deck, which means they'll either just wall you or they're going to go aggro on you and start summoning a bunch of stuff. So you need a way to get past that. Side decking strategy, I've already overviewed. I really, the more I play things, the more I want to experiment, and the less confident I get in my choices. But I'm really liking, rather than electing for a bunch of spells, different spells and traps, is maybe expanding the monster lineup to be your toolbox, because it makes your reasonings more consistent, and bringing in an Air Knight versus something that's running goats is really good. Bringing in this versus a warrior is really good. Bringing a time wizard in versus something that's going to wall you is really good. This is great for the mirror. This can be useful against turbo to, brain and then pop set stuff. This can be really good to bring out in certain matchups, and then meta it to go into last warrior, especially in the mirror, because this deck's gaining more popularity. So I like, as opposed to a toolbox of spells and traps, the toolbox of monsters has been working pretty well. I just need to think a little bit more about what those monsters are and whether or not it's a one of each kind of thing, which seems to be good, or if there's a way to rejigger the whole monster lineup in when you side versus certain matchups. I just don't know what that would look like. Like if we play warriors, if we have like 2 to 3 dedicated spots like sub a Sork or something. I don't know. I'm just not sure if any like thing like Sork is cuttable ever with this type of build. But those are some of my updated thoughts on this. Experimenting with stuff like Compulse. Um, the the difficult part with this deck is there are cards that are coming in very often, and there are cards that are coming in very infrequently, just based on where the meta is right now. And Compulse can be really good to out things like Thousand Eyes, opposing Thousand Eyes, that is, or if it's just like a random rogue deck that tries to cheese out a big monster or like something that maybe plays Stein, but I'm not sure this card is living up to my expectations so far. Um, it's really good at outing face down, so it's kind of mediocre in a lot of things. I just with a deck list like this that's so tight, I'm not sure I have enough room to sub in something that's like mediocre. Same thing with decrees. If somebody's watching this in the comments, I feel like I'm not able to bring in decrees in the matches that I would want to bring in decrees. Like I'd want to bring in decrees versus warriors maybe, but I need my back row versus warrior. And I think Giant Trunade and Heavy Storm get me where I need to be. The only matchup that I think Decree is like an auto side in is something like Burn, and I just haven't been facing a lot of Burn. And I'm not sure that with Token Thanksgiving and I'm really that worried about Burn. I mean, they're gonna put you under a level limit area B, and if they do that and you don't have an out for it and you just have Decree, you're gonna lose anyway. So it's kind of like, okay, like I just need Trunade, like, or Heavy Storm, and that's really all there is to it. So I'm not really sure how useful Decree is. Because by the time Decree pays itself back, if you will, you would have lost the game anyway. Like Burn's typically not going to kill you in the first few turns unless there's some sort of god draw into like a jar resolved into something else. Decree for it to have Burn not kill you requires the game to go on so many turns that it's like with a combo deck, if this deck is bleeding into turn 4 and 5 and 6 and 7, where Decree really starts to hurt Burn, if you have them under the Decree and they can't out it, it's like you're probably going to lose anyway. I just don't know what other way to say it. Um, Burn can be really tough since in a deck like this you kind of need to sometimes set up scapegoats, but there are very very hard punishes with Gyaku gears and all the stuff with their burn cards. So uh, really the hard part about this deck, in my opinion, is the side. I'm just having a really really difficult time figuring out the ratios and what's most effective in what matchups based on the play style of when I'm trying to win, which is between turns 2 and 4 ish with this type of deck, which is somewhat fast, maybe a little bit slow. Some people just try to gun it on turn 1 with decks like this and hope they hit a loaded grave or are able to load up their grave with gates and reasonings, but I play it a little bit slower. So I'm trying to figure out what side works for that style of gameplay. So if you have any ideas or cards that you think stand out as really bad, let me know. Another card, Regeki Break. This is really good against stuff that's going to be setting stuff. And it allows you to pitch things, which I think is underexplored with Reasoning Gate. There are just so many times when I need to pitch a Jinzo, I need to pitch a Crane, I don't want a normal cannon and blow itself up, I need to pitch a Demok and get it in the grave. And there just really aren't that many ways to do that with this deck. I'm not going to burn a Vortex for no reason, if there's really not much on board that needs to be removed. Monster Reincarnation, if I need something in the grave, that also requires a Chaos Monster to be in the grave, so it's worth exploring in my opinion. Maybe even something like Back to Square One, which is not chainable, but it doesn't counter with Decree, and under really difficult circumstances you can get it back with Dark Magician of Chaos, and it's just way faster. Like if you, like for instance, Dimension Fusion, like back a bunch of cranes or something and draw into the Return to Square One or Back to Square One. I can't remember what it was called. Let's look. Back to Square One. Then you can play it that same turn. Now, reading the card, it's only monsters, which I don't think matters that much, but in thinking about it more, that probably matters a lot. Um, break can out like if they just do like a set one and you need to go off and you don't have Trunade or something. that could really hurt if it's a back row and you just don't have a way to out it. So yeah, I don't know. I'm gonna keep on experimenting. We're gonna jump into some games and let's see how it goes. All right, so we started a game and our opponent mid game one said they had to go, so we are running it back. See what comes of this, and hopefully we can get at least a full match in here with some siding and deck discussion stuff. All right, GLFH. That sucks. At least we have something to pitch that's decent. We have something that's a little bit duplicative, so and he gets hand information, which sucks. Oh, okay. Um, what we need to hope is that we don't draw anything that can be searched with this, and get some combo pieces like reasoning or gate going. Because it looks like he's warrior, and he's warrior, and on turn one he knows what we're playing with the Kaiku, and he duoed us. So this is already looking very difficult. Um, hmm. Now what I was thinking is if we heavy first, because I guess technically he could dust shoot us. Warrior is on 3 dust shoot, but I just feel like he would have just gunned it by now. So I don't think it's worth playing around that. Let's move this out. And I want to take note of his build. So he's main decking Zombirus. I mean, this looks so far looks like pretty standard warrior, except the Zombira stuff. We don't know if we're going to be able to go off this turn. Um, with a Kaiku on the field, uh, I think we just charity before we heavy storm anything. Yeah, there's absolutely no reason to heavy preemptively here. So I get a sneaking suspicion that Monster Reincarnation is about to be really good because we're gonna have to bring back a Sork or something, but this is still on the field. So yeah, we're gonna end up playing this a little bit slower, I think. So we're gonna hold. We're gonna preemptively goats, and Toon Cannon Soldier I think is what needs to go here. We don't want to get end phase dusted, so what the game plan is here is we're going to delay by 1 turn. We are going to get 4 goats on the field this turn so that we can gate and reasoning. I mean, we could have set and then gate and reasoning after heavying, but I just think this is better. Just to reiterate, setting this is way too risky. We can't afford, pardon me, to have that get end phase dusted, or we lose. No other summon. So that's a little unfortunate. This is the turn we're going to try to go off. So if he comes down here, I can't imagine he has a response to this. Like, if it's solemn, that bodes pretty well for us. Maybe he didn't see it? Maybe he's thinking? Yeah, he didn't see it. He had the dust. Ugh, that would have been, yeah, that would have been game. So here we want to reasoning first because he has less information on what he's going to hit. He knows a 6 and a 4 are gone. So if he's smart, he's going to call an 8 just because he's more likely to hit 4, but the 8 is the way, way bigger payoff for me. So you're reasoning first because if we gate first, then he's going to have a lot more information on what to call. Yeah. So he called correctly here, or not correctly, like we hit the crane, but he made the ex ante correct call as opposed to the ex post incorrect call. Alright, so card destruction does let us recycle the goat, just because I think we're at the point in the game where we're not going to have any use for this. If we end up activating another goat, we've lost anyway. Okay. Alright, so we're getting basically everything in the graveyard, which is exactly what you want to happen. We are going to get back, well, this is getting summoned, but on board, if we take something, or we take his, right now on board we have 44 plus 18 is 62. What I'm wondering or struggling with right now is we can guarantee get another crane and start drawing, but we can't do anything with Chaos Sorcerer until that Kaiku gets off the field, which is a really bad place to be in right now. The other thing, like what I was thinking is Monster Reincarnation, get back Sorcerer, but I just don't think that's very good right now. Meta doesn't do anything for us. Reasoning is going to get called correctly. We could gate into another crane, but that doesn't really do anything. I think the most powerful thing is because we kind of have two dead cards in our hand right now that aren't going to do us any good, is get back Charity and try to move forward that way. I think long-term Monster Reincarnation is going to be good. Um, or longer-term Dimension Fusion is probably going to be good because we're going to have to bring this back, but we have two in deck. So I think this is the correct play. We're not going to be able to kill him this turn from any lines that I see. So we're going to have to beef up for next turn. Yep, there's the defusion. That's useless for sure. That's almost guaranteed useless. Premature does allow us to bring back. So yeah, we have game now, right? We can premature. Yeah. Alright, cool. Um Rich Homie Cannon Soldier. Oh, does he not know the effect? He does know the effect. And then we're gonna declare it again. This gets banished. Right, cool. Um, is there any real reason not to reasoning here? I mean, I guess the one hypothetical is if Crane is the very bottom card of our deck. We could deck ourselves out. I don't think that's worth it. Like that tail risk. Um, so we defusion for 2,000. Let's just defusion. I'm too lazy to do this math again, so we're just gonna defusion that back. We are going to defusion again. There's really a bunch of different ways to do this. We just need to leave enough for brain control. I mean, he should be conceding right now, right? And actually, wait, I didn't pay attention. Did we? Yeah, we didn't have Snatch in the grave yet, so. Alright, so Warrior, Vampire Lord, Mirror Force comes in. This is the situation that I was talking about before, which is that a lot of the stuff we want to play is traps, and traps are really good versus Warrior, but, or I mean, Decree's really good versus Warrior, but it also shuts off a lot of the best stuff that we're planning on using. This is amazing versus Warrior, this probably just slows us down too much. We're going to add something else in the monster lineup. This probably ends up being too slow. We're getting our face beat in, and we just need to find the third weakest link, which I think is a meta. So yeah, I'm getting more and more sold on the idea that maybe these come in versus Chaos Turbo, these come in versus exclusively Burn. We just have to make tweaks around the edges. I'm just not sure if this is the type of deck that you can heavily side with. You just have to make little tweaks. So, not that this guy played poorly or anything. I mean, he did make the correct reasoning call, but especially lower rated players might leave in some kind of questionable stuff like Heavy Storm or Dust Tornado and stuff versus us, which I guess you pardon me, could say is correct turn one, but I just don't think we can play around that. Like if he runs back row removal and didn't side it out, that's just life. And he sided pretty quickly. Okay. This hand sucks. So this is the situation I was talking about in the deck review where you just need to discard. Like if we had a way to discard with this hand becomes so good. Or if we just had a way to get something else on the board. But I don't think we have that luxury. With a hand like this, we just might have to get like ultra greedy with like this is torrentialable. But we might just have to go for like 3 for 1. Yeah, we're getting greedy as shit here and seeing if we can hit 3. So this is really good, this Trunade, because Warrior runs Solemn. Well, good Warrior players run Solemn, and this seems like a very typical, probably net decked Warrior list. So if we reset the swords and his back row and he summons something next turn, then we can blow up 3. Worst case scenario is we have brain control to start trading. Like even the DD Warrior Lady's so good because it can clear both of his stuff. So we'll see if he has a response to this. Because we reset swords and get less punished with torrential. So this is a slow game. Like this, every turn that goes by, we're getting less and less likely to win. Like we have 1 card in grave. We have 1 card in grave. That's fine. Is he gonna go for it? Come on, summon something else, dude. You know you want to. Oh, damn. It's fine. We're gonna crash these. Okay, so we have to get greedy again, which is the obvious play is to brain control DD Warrior Lady and hit into Blade Knight, use the effect to banish both, so you go 2 for 1, which again, card advantage isn't that big of a deal, but we need to remove both of his monsters. The greedy play, which in a game state like this, like you have to wonder like what your outs are to actually win this game. You have to go for high variance, high risk, high reward plays. So what the play is, in my opinion, is we're gonna brain control Blade Knight, and we're gonna attack over this. He's not gonna use the effect to banish, obviously. And then main phase 2, we have to monster gate this off because we need to get something going. We need to get something in the grave. Well, we know what that is now. Cursed Seal of the Forbidden Spell. That's that's a little alarming actually, because now our monster gate is not gonna go off probably. We're gonna have to pitch all of them. Hmm. We still have to go for it. There's really no ifs, ands, or buts. He Daku's it. I think that's fine. Okay. He Saku's that. That really surprises me. I don't think we're too upset about that. Now we have like a 1500 beater to deal with, but he's gonna have to summon something next turn, and we're gonna blow it up unless he doesn't have any way to deal with our back row at this point either. I mean, unless he has no monsters in hand, which I find very unlikely, the correct play is to summon something. Yeah, so that all gets blown up. So this outcome is fine. It doesn't make our position in the game any better. I would give our odds at winning this game right now like 10%. Okay, let's knock that down to 3%. Oh my god. The only way we win is card destruction or scapegoats. That'll buy us enough time. Or or getting hit with a Donzalug and pitching something or delinquent duo and anything but really these two. And we don't want this to get hit, but like if he hits a monster with a discard effect, this is almost unwinnable at this point. He has spell removal. We're down. We have very few life points left for any activations of defusion. He's gonna hit us here. Yeah, this locks out the game. Do a little too late reasoning. Okay. He's probably gonna get the call wrong. He kind of has to call 8, I think. He has to call 8, even though he's just gonna negate this. Yeah. Okay. That is there any way for us to wait, does this banish? Oh, we just can't activate cards with the same name. What I think is worth doing is setting some stuff. He already has information on what our deck is, but I want to see if he has like dust tornadoes left. Yeah, he kept the dust tornadoes. So that's something to consider for next game. Like the just random bluffs in the back row. Like we were just doing that for information. Like him knowing we have meta doesn't do much. Us knowing that he kept in dusts game 2 does tell us a lot. So we're not going to be able to. Well, we shouldn't bluff stuff unnecessarily. So we're going to play for information until we die. See if he solemns. That would be good to know if he's running solemn too. Yeah, so he's running solemn. Cool. I don't think that changes much. Except that in this case, we are bringing in royal decrees, no doubt. If these brick, these brick. But we have to. This probably isn't doing us much good. It's definitely a combo enabler, but compared to everything else in our deck, no. There's something to be said about like maybe siding out something like this. This is going to be a lot of back row hate, but we basically have to get a decree set up. We don't have to, but it would be really good turn 1. So this hand is a little bricky. So we got the Toon Cannon. Yeah, that stinks. We are going to. This is as good as the mirror is ever going to get. We can bet our bottom dollar based on the way he sided last game that he didn't side out heavy. We can chain this, so I don't I don't I don't think it's worth playing around heavy at this point. And he hits it. That stinks. Yeah, just a few things that aren't going our way this game. Last game we had the brick of all bricks. And this game, like turn 1 breaker, pop something. I mean, maybe I shouldn't have committed that, like baited some back removal, but I don't know. Like, it's kind of one of those things, like, and I'm not calling this guy bad, like, he's playing well so far, he's probably going to beat me based on the way this hand is shaping up. But sometimes, and this really, again, is not to be insulting to other players, but sometimes you lose because somebody plays worse than you. I know that's kind of counterintuitive, but like, and again, maybe the setting mirror turn 1 was a misplay, but like because somebody does something bad and unexpected, you can lose the game. Like the way he's like not sided out back row removal. I just don't think that's correct. And you have to play around the correct plays. Or maybe the pro players just assume, once they see somebody play that the bad players are bad and play around the wrong plays. Maybe that's like the Giga Brain way to do it, but I think I was playing around the right way, which is kind of frustrating when it doesn't go your way. When your opponent gets rewarded for doing something technically incorrect, but the outcome differs. All right, so let's refocus, see what we can do to win. I'm not tilting, just trying to add some somewhat interesting commentary on how to keep a level head. Like this isn't tilting me, it's just understanding variance and that your opponent doesn't have to play the way you think they should. And he's going to call 4, which is not good for us. Oh my gosh. I mean, it doesn't matter. Okay. So this is sometimes about as good as it's going to get when we have to grind somebody out. He did have Saku's. We want to get some of his traps out, I think. There's no use in him making himself live with monsters, and I think his spells are not going to do him as much good, and he'll just pitch anything that's dead. Pitches call. Interesting. Again, you'd think he'd probably want to pitch something like Dust Tornado. I'm not setting this as bait. Like, there's no real reason to. I think this could be a lot more useful, like pitching for a Vortex or a card destruction or a monster reincarnation. And there's no use in setting up a bluff here. He'll just remove it. Plus, if we are going to do something like that, we would want to set it with something. Oh my god, what is this hand? 2 games in a row, like we're drawing all of our monsters. And okay, let's refocus. Summoning Crane, is that ever correct? I think we're gonna have to beat him down. I don't know what good the Crane's doing in our hand right now. If the board gets blown up somehow, this guy comes back and we're gonna be at some point probably live if this gets removed somehow. See, we just gotta beat him down. Toon Cannon Soldier is not worth doing anything with. If this Crane survives, we can get Jinzo down. Face downs with this deck, he's running a Warrior. I think we're still attacking with the bigger one. I'm trying to think if there's anything in his deck that Crane can't run over. I don't. I think Crane would run over this, but I just don't know. Let's see. Yeah, I don't think the extra 400 is gonna matter. Saku's it. Okay. That kind of hampers our plans of getting Jinzo out, locking that down, which is I think how we win. Um, what might end up happening is getting Toon Cannon Soldier out, and that sucks so bad. Okay, we're live. We're live with Sork. We're not playing it this turn, but we're live. Because he nearly guaranteed has a way to deal with Sork, and we need to get the effect off with Prio, and then we would probably tribute for Jinzo. Preemptively adding Exiled. Interesting. Okay, so this is shaping up. This is shaping up for sure. I think we might be able to come back now. He's at 4 cards. We have some tokens, a dead Toon table, and cards that in the not too distant future I think are going to be very, very live. What I think the game plan is here is we're gonna let these tokens absorb an attack. To be determined what we do with Toon Cannon Soldier. It might end up having to blow tokens or itself up, but next turn Sork, he may solemn it, but that still means that stuff's banished and he doesn't have a way to deal with defusion. Yeah, I think things are looking pretty good here. What he's probably going to do is normal exiled hit. Oh shit. Oh, oh no. Haiku. Oh yes. Oh, this game's crazy. Alright, so we got lucky here. I think if we bring Khan, he has to summon or remove this somehow. That really is our only out at this point. We have to out that Kaiku. So I don't know if it was right for me to wait to Sork. I think it was. I mean, we knew what one monster was in his hand, and just getting this stuff banished may have been worth it. I don't know. I really don't know. I don't know if you ever preemptively Sork and have to play around Kaiku. I think that's the right play most of the time. But I don't know. Okay, so luckily that went through. I don't think we can win this turn, but let me think. So if we sack for Jinzo, that's going to turn off basically everything unless he solemns it. Then we can Sork getting that stuff banished essentially. And then that's 24 plus 23, 47 defusion plus this. But we don't have a way to remove the goats, so we can only get, because if we use the normal summon on Jinzo. And we're not going in unless we get Jinzo on the board. So what I think we're doing again is we're gonna attack. Is it too greedy to attack with his stuff? No, that's way too greedy. We're gonna sack, then attack with Jinzo, and we're waiting a turn. See if he solemns this. Wow, he's not solemning it. I wish this could attack the turn it was summoned. That'd be so nice. But what we're gonna do here. So, hmm, so we could do 47 plus the 2000 from like a vampire lord, but that's getting him low, but it's not winning us the game. So I think there's something to be said about him exiling this next turn too. Like we had to kind of do this. He's just gonna exile this off. Oh no, oh wow. If we get Kaiku'd here again, we are gonna be sad, sad, sad. What are these hands, dude? We've drawn every single monster in our deck 2 games in a row. Alright. Um Exiled here does like we could Sork, banish, and just try to go for it, but I don't know. That just doesn't seem good enough. There's just too many ways we can get disrupted with that. I think we have to again start playing a little bit more slowly and hope we don't get a Kaiku up our ass, and then Sork whatever he pulls through, and just play it one turn at a time. Because this is way too fragile for us to just start going in. So we only have a 4 left, which is what he's going to call. But we still do it. We want to thin the deck and get more resources in the grave for Democ, if there's ever a way to get him out. And maybe he even negates this. I doubt he would. Oh wow, he did. He negated that. That was not a good play. So we're 6 tributes off with Cannon Soldier, which is not attainable at all. Considering we'd have to like banish Sork Dimension Fusion. What I think we do is we banish for Sork. We attack and then we try to main phase 2 Cannon Soldier. I think he's going to disrupt the play, but that's fine because then we can follow up later. So this is definitely getting banished. This is definitely getting banished. This comes up into attack. Good. If he solemns this, that would be awesome. What is more likely to happen is Sakuretsu. So I think we just go for game here. I don't think there's any reason not to go for game here. Because Jinzo comes out. Yeah, we won. Okay. No GG for that. Alright, so reflecting on this, I think there's a lot of room for debate on some of the plays I made. I think there are a few blatant misplays to learn from my opponent for somebody that's watching on how to play against First Reasoning Gate. He never should have kept in the back row hate. It's one of those things where it happened to maybe have paid off for him at 1 or 2 points in this match, but again, just you have to look at decisions like this on whether or not it's the correct thing to do with the information you had at the time and not judge it on the outcome. Um, Not to harp on it, but if you make a misplay and it happens to work out in your favor, you should not reinforce those bad habits. It's like if you had, 3 cups and under, you know, 2 cups you put $100 bill, and under 1 cup you put two $50 bills, and you shuffle it up and you say pick one and tell me like what bill is under it. If you say, okay, I picked, the middle cup and I guess that there's two $50 bills under it, and if you happen to get it correct, I mean, yeah, the result was correct, but your decision was wrong. Like if you win that money, you're an idiot. It's not like good decision making. So the other thing with this is the mistiming of his solemn. This lost him the game. I don't know if there was ever a reason for us to really ever play around Kaiku. I mean, we did see it in the first few games, but like the counterfactual is that if we would have summoned Sorcerer, we know that he had an out to it. He's just gonna, oops, smashing ground. See you later. So this actually ended up being correct. And, we kind of got punished temporarily, but over the long haul, it did win us the game on holding off on Sork. And we still somehow managed to win this based on the misplays of our opponent, withdrawing like absolute dog shit. I mean, we drew awful this game. We drew awful last game, but we lost. But like, this hand was abysmal, and he just couldn't do anything. And that really goes to show like how important siding is. Like, does Call of the Haunted even stay in like when you're playing Warrior? I don't think so. It's too slow. They're gonna bounce your back row. You're not gonna be able to set up a grave. you keep premature but not call. This was a good side deck choice. Solemn stays in, but you have to time it correctly, and that's another mini rant I'm about to go on, which is that Solemn is probably the most skill intensive card, in my opinion, in GOAT format. The timing of when you Solemn is the deciding factor on whether or not you win or lose the game very, very frequently. And a Solemn interrupting a card and a combo that is not impactful and you pay a decent portion of your life points at certain points in the game will lose you the game very frequently. There's also the trade-off where sometimes you sell them with a lot of life points, and that can be the correct play. It's a very, very hard, difficult deck or a card to play correctly. And I really think that's why a lot of players aren't using it. They're just using extremely lazy, straightforward linear turbo list, and they're like, oh, I'll just play dust shoots and I'll just play Regeki breaks or Phoenix Wing Wind Blast, and they're not playing Solemn just because, in my opinion, a lot of any player that tops is way better than me, but like in the grand scheme of things, I just don't think there are enough good players getting good with a card like Solemn, and it's one of the best cards in the format. Um, and it's weird for me to say that as a worse player than the players that are topping. Like I am objectively way worse than those players, but from having played the game long enough, the good players should be using Solemn, and that's just my opinion. I think if there were a cohort of turbo players that played two Solemns and just started dominating and seeing how good the card is and learning how to play it, they would never go back. Absolutely never go back. Um, you just have to figure out what you're cutting. It's like, am I going to go two Regeki breaks, two Solemns, two Dust Shoot, or am I going to be like greedy and make a meta call and just say I'm going triple Dust Shoot because I think I'm going to see more turbo? I don't know what the answer to that is, but I hope you guys enjoyed this little video here. Let me know what you think were some misplays or opportunities for improvement on my end, and drop a like, a sub, or a comment. It's definitely appreciated. Just trying to get better, and for now, have a good one.